Good morning, students. So hope all you are fine and safe. So last class we discussed the first chapter. We just started the first lesson, isn't it? Did you watch your video? All of you should watch your video and take down your notes regularly, as I told you in the first class itself. So this day we are going to discuss the balance of that topic that we had discussed in the first video, or first class. First class we discussed about the matter. Matter is made up of particles, and then characteristics of particles we discussed, isn't it? Characteristics of particles. Characteristics of particle, the first characteristics we discussed. Did you remember that? Remember what is it? Particles of matter have a space between them. So that is the first one. So I will write over the board. Characteristics of particle. First one we already discussed in our first video. So I am going to write that one. The first one is particles of matter have a space between them. So when you consider a particles or when you consider a matter, this matter is made up of particle, and in between the particle there is a space. And that's why potassium permanganate, when we mix with water and it gives a solution after 2 or 3 or 5 or dilution, it gives a faint color, which means, and that only that one indicate the particles of matter have a space between them. Then next characteristics, we are going to discuss the next characteristics of these particles of matter. Particles of matter are continuously moving. What is it? Particles of matter are continuously moving. That means they are always in moving manner. So this is the second characteristics of particles of matter. This can be understood through a daily life situation. You just imagine you are in your sit out, in your home, and when you are there, and if somebody is preparing chicken curry or some delicious food, you can smell the curry, isn't it? And you can identify that delicious dish. How? Because it doesn't prepare in your home itself, and it was prepared beside you, that means in your neighborhood maybe. But you can identify, you can sense the smell of that delicious curry or delicious food. And did you remember what is the reason behind this? Did you ever think about this? Now you are 9th standard, so you have to think about this. So I am going to give the explanation on that particular instant. Which means the chicken curry is preparing there, the smell, and which is coming out from that home or that house, and which is intermixed with the air. Intermixed with the air. Air is also made up of particles. Okay, so when the chicken curry, a smell, and this is particles of matter is there, and that particles of that particular matter get mixed with the particles of air. Particles of air. ഇത് രണ്ടും കൂടെ മിക്സ് ആവുന്നു. പക്ഷെ മിക്സ് ആയിട്ട് അവിടെ തന്നെ ഇരിക്കുകയല്ല ചെയ്തത്. എന്താണ്? ഇത് മൂവ് ചെയ്താൽ മാത്രമേ that would reach us. അല്ലേ? So the particles of a smell of chicken curry get mixed with the particles of air. Isn't it? These particles of air are continuously moving. That's we are studying. Because we studied now itself, the particles of matter are continuously moving. So depending on that characteristic, we can understand we got the smell of the chicken curry due to This characteristic, what is it? Particles of matter are continuously moving. ആ കറിയുടെ സ്മെല്ല് എയറിലേക്ക് മിക്സ് ആയി അത് മൂവ് ചെയ്യുന്നു. മിക്സ് ആയതിനു ശേഷം ആ എയർ മൂവ് ചെയ്ത് and which reaches അല്ലേ, and that's why we can smell the curry. Understood? So this is a simple daily life situation. We reaches the second characteristics of particles of matter. What is it? Particles of matter are continuously moving. What is it? Particles of matter are continuously moving. Right? Particles of matter are continuously moving. So this is a very simple situation that you can easily imagine, and from this we reach us the second characteristic. Particles of matter are continuously moving. So two characteristics we discussed. Particles of matter have space between them. Particles of matter are continuously moving. Continuously moving. So, under this second characteristics, we need to explain two more important properties of particle or matter. Under this second characteristics, ഈ രണ്ടാമത്തെ characteristics നമ്മൾ explain ചെയ്യുന്ന കൂട്ടത്തിൽ നമ്മൾ രണ്ട് കെമിസ്ട്രിയിലെ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സയൻസിലെ രണ്ട് important topics അല്ലെങ്കിൽ രണ്ട് important properties we have to explain. That is, the first one is kinetic energy. The first one is what it is? Kinetic energy. The second one is diffusion. These two terms are entirely new for you, so you have to thorough with this. Okay, so I will write what are the two properties. The first one is kinetic energy. Kinetic energy. Kinetic energy means first of all I will read the definition of this kinetic energy. It is the energy possessed by the moving particle. Energy possessed by the moving particle. If I'm starting here, that means I'm just stand here itself. When I'm moving like this and here I'm there, now I have one energy. That energy is known as kinetic energy. അതായത് മൂവ് ചെയ്യുന്നവർക്ക് മാത്രം പൊസസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മൂവ് ചെയ്യുന്നവർ മാത്രം പൊസസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന എനർജിയാണ് kinetic energy. Okay, if I am here, I possess one energy also, that's potential energy. And if I begins to move here and when I am moving here like this, now I possess there another energy, and that energy is known as kinetic energy. So what is kinetic energy? The energy possessed by moving particle is known as kinetic energy. So here we discussed that now particles of matter are continuously moving. As the particles are moving, they possess surely what? Kinetic. So kinetic energy means the moving particle possess. So moving particle possess energy is kinetic energy. Then another property is diffusion. Second characteristic. Particles of matter are continuously moving. As they are continuously moving, we reaches the smell. We got the smell of the curry or delicious food, etc. that we already discussed. So, in order to get that smell, what should happen there? It should happen that the smell of curry should get intermixed with the particles of air. Then only when the air moving, it will reach us. Reach us. Okay, so what will happen there? Intermixing of particles of matter. What will happen there? Intermixing of particles of matter. So that property is known as a diffusion. So what is diffusion? The process of intermixing of two different types of particles of matter is known as diffusion. What is diffusion? എന്താണ്? The process of intermixing of two different types of particles of matter into their own. Means രണ്ടുപേരും നന്നായിട്ട് മിക്സ് ചെയ്യുന്നു into their own is called diffusion. And hope you understood these two terms. I will explain once more. Kinetic energy means it is the energy possessed by the moving particle. The second one is diffusion. Diffusion means it is the process of intermixing of two different types of particles into their own is called diffusion. Okay, so we discussed the two characteristics. Then we move on to the another characteristics, third characteristics. Third characteristics, it is particles of matter are attract each other. അങ്ങനെയുണ്ടല്ലേ, എങ്ങനെയുണ്ട്? എന്താണ്? Particles of matter have a space between them. Particles of matter are continuously moving. The third one is what it is? Particles of matter are attracting each other. ഇവരെ കണ്ടിന്യൂസ് ആയിട്ട് മൂവ് ചെയ്യണമെങ്കിൽ, ഇല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇവരെ ഏതൊരു സാധനവും നമ്മൾ അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു ഷേപ്പായിട്ട് ഇരിക്കണമെങ്കിൽ, and when you consider this chalk, this is an example of matter. This is made up of particle. So this chalk should be like this only if there is an attraction between the particle of this chalk. ഈ ചോക്കിന്റെ അകത്തെ പാർട്ടിക്കിൾസ് തമ്മിൽ ഒരു അട്രാക്ഷൻ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ മാത്രമേ ഇങ്ങനെ ഇരിക്കൂ. അതല്ല എങ്കിൽ എന്ത് സംഭവിക്കും? ഇതിങ്ങനെ പറന്നിങ്ങനെ നടക്കും. Okay, and did you see this figure? I will show one figure in your textbook. That is, just to see this one. This is a type of game. It's a human chain. Let me just imagine the human chain. Human chain നമ്മൾ നോക്കാം. ഇങ്ങനെ നമ്മൾ പിടിച്ച് എല്ലാവരും കൂടി ഇങ്ങനെ നിൽക്കുന്നു. That means those students or those contestants they are holding each other very tightly, which means they are attracting each other. So that's why they would be like in a particular shape or particular manner. Okay, so particles of matter, whatever we take, any matter we can select, bench, desk, chalk, book, bag, and whatever you can form, whatever you can select, and these are made up of particles, and these particles of matter are attracting each other or attract each other, and only that reason itself this matter having a specific shape. ഒരു സ്പെസിഫിക് ഷേപ്പ് ഉള്ളത് എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ്? ഈ മാറ്റർ ഉണ്ടാക്കിയിരിക്കുന്ന പാർട്ടിക്കിൾസ് വളരെ നന്നായിട്ട് ഹോൾഡ് ചെയ്ത് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നന്നായിട്ട് അട്രാക്ട് ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്നത് കൊണ്ടാണ്. Okay, so this is the third characteristics. I will write over the board what it is. Particles of matter attract each other. Particles of matter attract each other. So these are the three characteristics of particles. So we discussed matter and matter made up of particle, and then particles of matter is possess characteristics. What are they? I will read. Particles of matter have space between them. Particles of matter are continuously moving, and particles of matter attract each other. So when the question asks like this, write the characteristics of particles of matter, what should you write? You should write these three characteristics. No need to write this kinetic energy, diffusion, etc. You just call these three characteristics. And separately, when the question is asked to write the kinetic energy or diffusion, then you have to write that definition of each one. Understand all of you? Okay, so we just started the chapter and we just discussed about this matter and particles and its characteristics and all this. Okay, so next one we are going to discuss about the states of matter. The matter particles we discussed within matter. എത്ര states ഉണ്ട് മാറ്ററിന് എന്നാണ് നമ്മൾ ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യാൻ പോകുന്നത്. And before that I will explain 2 or 3 questions and which is given in your textbook. Textbookilla 2 questions miss പറഞ്ഞു തരികയാണ്. After watching this video, after watching this second video, and I would give these questions as a note. So while you reading or while you writing these notes, and if you have any doubt would be there. So to avoid that doubt, I will explain the question, and the questions will be given in the page number 3. And which of the following are matter? That means you have to identify which are matter are given in this following. Then next, second question is in this. I will read. Give reasons for the following observation. The smell of hot sizzling food reaches you several meters away, but to get the smell from the cold food, you have to go close. That means the smell of hot sizzling food. That means നല്ല ചൂടുള്ള സാധനത്തിൻ്റെ സ്മെല്ല് നമുക്ക് വളരെ ഈസി ആയിട്ട് നമുക്ക് കിട്ടും. പക്ഷെ തണുത്ത ഭക്ഷണമാണെങ്കിൽ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് വെരി ഡിഫിക്കൽട്ട്. യു ഹാവ് ടു ഗോ ക്ലോസർ ആൻഡ് ഹാവ് ടു സ്മെൽ ലൈക്ക് ദിസ്. ദെൻ ഓൺലി യു ഗോട്ട് ദിസ്. What is the reason? Reason, as the temperature increases, the kinetic energy also increases. അതായത് നമ്മൾ ആ ചൂട് കൂടുന്തോറും ആ പാർട്ടിക്കിൾസിനെ മൂവ് ചെയ്യാനുള്ള എനർജി കൂടുന്നു. എനർജി കൂടുമ്പോൾ അവരെന്താ സംഭവിക്കുന്നത്? അവർ വളരെ ഫാസ്റ്റ് ഓടി നമ്മുടെ ക്ലോസിലേക്ക് എത്തും. That's it. As the temperature increases, kinetic energy increases. As a result, we can smell very easily the cold. So that is the first question and its answer. Understood all of you? മനസ്സിലായോ? Then next one. A diver is able to cut through the water in a swimming pool. Which property of matter does this observation show? A diver is able. Diver means dive ചെയ്യുന്ന ആൾ, നീന്തുന്ന ആൾ. ഇങ്ങനെയല്ല അവർ നീന്തുന്നത്. എന്താണെന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമ്മുടെ വെള്ളത്തിനെ ഇങ്ങനെ മാറ്റി അല്ലേ? ഇപ്പം നമ്മൾ തന്നെയാണെങ്കിലും when you are beside a river or pond, and when you fall and when you touches the river and you just like this, what happens? You are able to move through the water. And when you try to move through the desk or bench, നമ്മൾ ഈ ബെഞ്ചിലൂടെയോ ഡെസ്കിലൂടെയോ ഒക്കെ നമ്മുടെ കൈ അവരോട് കയറ്റാൻ പറ്റുമോ? It's not possible. But you are able to move your hands through the water. The reason, എന്തുകൊണ്ട് അങ്ങനെ നമ്മുടെ കൈ അതിലേക്ക് മൂവ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്നു? And the reason എന്താണ്? And there the particles of water is a matter. The particles of water have a space between them, so it is easy to move our hands in the space of that particle. ആ വാട്ടറിന്റെ പാർട്ടിക്കിൾസിന്റെ ഇടയിലെ സ്പേസ് ഉണ്ട്. ആ സ്പേസിന്റെ ഇടയിൽ കൂടെ നമ്മുടെ കൈ പോകും. And that's the reason that we are already discussed through under the heading characteristics of particle. So this is all. These are the indirect questions. So when you answer this questions, you have to understand. I already studied this one. Okay, so that's why I explained this question. The last question, what are the characteristics of particles of matter? So it's had given in your page number 3. I just explained because when you study these questions and when you some doubts came there, to eliminate, to reduce such doubts, I explained these 3 questions. So it will be very helpful for you. Okay, hope you understood all this. Today's topic I just discussed about the characteristics of particles of matter only. The next class onwards I will explain and I will take much more portion. Okay, so these are the topic we discussed today, and all of you should watch video and take down the note regularly and attend the Google Meet. Okay, thank you all of you, and stay safe and stay healthy.